Okay. You're ready to go? I think so. That's the best I can do, guys. Back over to my screen. Okay. Welcome. Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Diane Parrish. The time is now 7:07, and this is the Multnomah Neighborhood Association General Meeting of May 13th. Thank you all for coming. There's a lot of people in here.
Yeah.
So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 people here at Rivers Gate Church. If you can mark that, Will.
Mhm.
And how many people do we have on Zoom?
At this point, we have 18 on Zoom,
Oh my
but
goodness.
some of them are duplicates like you and Julie. But
And we have 1, 2, 3, 4 board members here in person, and it looks like 2.
Mitch Green is a duplicate.
So
isn't he?
quorum has been achieved.
No, I'm sorry.
he is, yes, he is.
He's at home.
He's at home. He's at home.
I hear
Okay.
you, Will.
All right. Thank you all. So before we get started with tonight's meeting, I just wanted to take a moment to introduce myself. So as I said earlier, my name is Diane Parrish. I joined the M&A board in 2023 and was appointed vice president by Moses during the April general meeting. And so as a part of that role, I've agreed to step into the president position until the next election cycle in November. So I spent the past decade working in the nonprofit sector, where my passion for purpose-driven work has shaped both my career and who I am. I've had the opportunity to work with a range of local organizations across different areas of need. Utilizing my fundraising and operations experience, I've always enjoyed being the person who connects the big picture mission with the behind the scenes systems that help them succeed. Looking ahead, I hope to continue the work that Moses so passionately led, while also building sustainable strategies to help M&A grow and thrive, especially when it comes to the volunteer community engagement and making our operations more effective and efficient. I step into this role with a deep sense of responsibility and respect for the leadership that came before me. I'm here to listen, to serve, and to build on the meaningful work that Moses began. Again, thank you all for coming. It's really means a lot to me. Try not to freak out too much. Okay, so a few minutes late, but first up on our agenda is some general housekeeping. So I have the agenda is here on the screen for us to review. Does anyone have any additions to this agenda? I will note I did add one item, number 5. Tad is going to present some language to the bylaws amendment that we approved in February. But any others?
Madam President, put the microphone right.
To do that. Okay.
Diane, this is Pam Fox. I was wondering if any of the items on the agenda would cover just an update about change to board members in addition to Moses. We had another board member had to resign.
All I have on the agenda is under the new president introduction, a review of the officers that are in the current term, but not a full review of the board members. But we can add the board members to that for sure.
Thanks.
Okay. Any others? Okay. Then to the first order so for our official conduction of business, the Multnomah Neighborhood Association officers for the current term ending in November 2025 are as follows. President is Diane Parrish. Vice President is an open position. The Secretary is Julie Leet. Treasurer is Peter Sampson. And then our board members are Pam Fox, Stefan, I don't know how to say your last name, so sorry.
McLandridge.
Okay. And Will Fuller, in addition to the officers up above. And Kate Worth. And I think that's it.
Beth Omans.
Beth Ominsky, I'm so sorry. Thank you, Beth. Okay. Did I miss anybody else? I'm so sorry. Okay. Moving on then. So we have two sets of minutes we need to approve. We did not approve the March 11th minutes last month last month. And then we also need to approve the April 8th minutes. There is a link to that in the public M&A folder. Will, do you have that handy to post in the chat for me, please? No, I can do it. Okay. I did read them. They look good to me. Does anybody have any objections to approving the minutes from April 8th and March 11th?
I have one correction for the April 8th meeting. For the attendance, it said that I was not present, but I actually did attend online.
Okay. Julie, do you have that noted?
Received and modified.
Okay, Julie has marked that down. So we will make that adjustment.
Thank
So
you.
with that amendment, are there any objections to approving the minutes? Okay, hearing none, we will consider them approved. All right, and next up is our new item, introduction of the bylaws amendment language. Tad, over to you.
And there are exactly.
Okay. No problem.
And it's
Can you hear me okay?
maybe we'll put a chair.
Oops.
Or. There we go.
My name is Ted Davis. I'm currently on the board, but I've worked on the board for several years. And currently
Mhm.
dealing with a business emergency, and once that's cleared up, I asking to rejoin the board. But I'm here tonight to talk about the recent amendment to the bylaws passed at the February meeting. It came to my attention that although the amendment was approved as presented, it was not actually added to the bylaws. So that's what you have in your hands now. The highlight in the bottom left corner is the new language that is just those three words added. And you can see the watermark draft on both sides of this, because until this body says so, this is not actually the new amended bylaws. And I'm not making a motion to approve these tonight, until have a month to look at it, and we'll make that motion next month. But I also want to talk about the process for making the amendments to the motion. As I've just described, you voted on the amendment once, and now I'm asking you to approve the final version of the bylaws. It's a couple of steps that shouldn't be necessary. The usual way of presenting an amendment to bylaws is in three columns. First column being, here's what the relevant paragraph in the bylaws looks like today. The third column being what the resulting language would look like. The column in the middle shows the changes, that is, with words struck out or highlighted to show that they're being inserted, whatever the case may be. So that once the
Do you want to, can you move the mic just a little bit closer?
the motion to amend is approved, the exact language change for the bylaws is clear. So amendments to bylaws are usually made at the annual meeting in November. So I'll tell this story again then. In the meantime, you have the proposed new language and expect a motion to approve this or any corrections you might have this time next month. Any questions?
Are there any questions for Tad? Doesn't sound like it.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up, we have our guest speaker this evening, Councilor Mitch Green. We'll go ahead and take it over to you, and I believe you have some slides you'd like to share.
I don't think we're gonna, I didn't prepare slides. I was just gonna talk and we can
Okay.
do discussion.
No problem.
Yeah, sorry about that if that was a miscommunication. I just want to say thank you for having me. It's been a pretty busy season, but being engaged with neighborhood associations. Last night I was in Hillsdale talking to those folks during the budget process is so important. And I wanted to talk to you guys today specifically about a recent resolution that we passed before council to prioritize sidewalks and alternative pathways in District 4 that I'm really excited about. And then if there's still time, kind of take any questions on broad budget related questions that folks might have. And also I'd like to address the utility rates question that I see in the chat, because I think that would be beneficial. So just jump right into it. I ran because I was tired of seeing children walk to school on the side of a busy road because there's no sidewalk. And I know this is a long-term structural issue in this city related to how we annex neighborhoods into our city and how we pay for infrastructure. But as it occurs to me, based upon past practice, there's probably no time at which we will get those investments unless we make it explicit that District 4 also deserves them, just because of the scarcity and the maintenance backlog. And so I joined Councilor Loretta Smith in District 1 to essentially put on the table a package that prioritizes, in conjunction with our kind of Southwest in Motion plans, building some sidewalks in both District 4 and District 1, because these are the parts of the city that are sidewalk poor. So that passed city council, I think last week or almost 2 weeks ago. I'm not even sure how time works anymore. I feel like I'm always in a meeting. And that was an 11-1 vote. We had a pretty spirited discussion at city council. There was a lot of debate over a couple issues I think are interesting to talk about. One was whether or not it was appropriate for council as a whole to weigh in on the priorities of a specific district. And I made the argument that I think that's why we were elected. You know, like we were elected with district-based representation to balance the needs of the city as a whole against the needs of our district-based constituency. And I said, you know, I'm going to vote for things that are only in District 1 when that makes sense. Like District 1 has a lack of fire stations, and I think that's something that we need to remedy in the future. But I needed to hold a line for District 4 because I think there's this idea that because the richest people in the city live in District 4, that must mean everyone is rich, and that we don't have challenges to equitable distribution of the infrastructure that we can use to walk, ride, and roll. So we had some conversation on that. And at the end of the day, there were some amendments that were intended to strip the language, the district-specific language, out of that resolution. And I made the argument that then it just renders the whole thing pointless. That was the whole point, was to say District 4 deserves sidewalks and they deserve it soon, as well as District 1. So we won that. It triggers the need to bring forward to the Finance Committee an ordinance that funds the proposition. And so I'm working right now with Councilor Smith and the City Budget Office to develop an ordinance that will float $200 million in bonds for infrastructure development to be paid over 20 years to fund and accelerate the development in District 4 and District 1. And so I think from a fiscal standpoint, I'd like to just explain why I think that's appropriate to pay for with bond finance. In my view, infrastructure is a general city obligation. I think it was a mistake when we wanted to think about people paying their own way as they came into the city. I understand the economic intuition, but it has created a situation where we don't have that infrastructure developed because homeowners can't afford it. And it does increase our development costs to such a degree that some of those projects don't pencil out. And I think that we've seen the unintended consequences of that. I think there are other things that taxpayers would say, this really isn't in the domain of what we think of as core city services, but I don't think sidewalks are part of that. I think sidewalks, road maintenance, utilities are all squarely in the sort of realm of what the public good is and what the general body of taxes should fund. And so I made the argument from that standpoint. I think there's some disagreement on council, but ultimately we got to a point where this resolution was supported with a vast majority. So I'll just pause there and see if there's any questions on that. What does it mean on a practical basis? And if there are any questions about timing and next steps. I see a hand up from Beth.
Thank you. Hang on while I put it down so you're not. Considering the sidewalk issue and considering that the city lost a lawsuit, an ADA lawsuit several years ago that required city sidewalks to be repaired and built, I'm wondering if that conversation has happened on the new city council yet.
That's a great question. We just recently passed a bond measure that's, I think, mutually supportive of the one with the sidewalks bill that's under consideration now, to accelerate financing of our ADA curb ramp compliance. It's a program that's quite expensive, but it is necessary to do those right in terms of our legal compliance and also being an accessible city. And so in discussion with the Portland Bureau of Transportation Director, Millicent Williams, and also my co-carriers on the resolution, we saw an opportunity to say, well, as we're building these ADA compliant curb ramps and curb cuts, let's build the sidewalks at the same time using the same labor costs, using the same overhead and scheduling priority to lower the administrative burden of the project and kind of stretch the dollars from both the ADA bonds that were floated. So the short answer is the city's taking action. There's money in the next budget to continue to roll ahead on the ADA compliancy question. But I think what we brought forward was kind of saying, well, what does it mean to build? How can you be compliant for accessibility if there is no sidewalk to begin with? And so that was kind of, I think, one of the motivating spirits here. In terms of prioritization, we really do want to return to the good plans that are on the shelf that say these are the areas in Southwest that need sidewalks with the highest priority. I think that's something that I would like our neighborhood associations to also weigh in on. We've given direction to the PBOT director on how to engage and give us a list of these projects, but we've also given the expectation that we're going to have some community members who've been doing this work for a really long time and have very specific ideas. For instance, I did a walk recently with Marianne Fitzgerald, West Portland Town Center, and we did the walk from United Methodist Church to Walgreens and across, and in that terrible intersection, just to remind folks of what we're missing and what we could potentially identify. I've also heard very loudly that the Shattuck Road needs to have adequate and complete sidewalks between Vermont and Beaverton Hillsdale Highway as that development goes in, or else we're going to have not only a congestion nightmare and a lack of opportunity for folks to use different modes of transit, but how are children going to get to school safely? So we're still very much in kind of a dynamic conversation around this. My chief of staff, Maria, is on the phone and is leading point on the policy parts of this and is kind of handling the very fine-grained minutia of all this and making sure that we're prioritizing this appropriately.
Thank you. I really appreciate that you are considerate of the fact that curb cut or, ramp cuts at intersections don't do much good if there's no sidewalk attached to them. So thank you for that. And the other thing I wanted to ask is, how would you like the neighborhood association? What would be the most effective way for us to weigh in and support what you're doing?
Well, just, providing reaffirmation that this is something that we've been asking for decades, I think will help remind counselors that this wasn't just a couple city councilors trying to kind of put their name on something splashy in their first term, but rather heard very clearly from their neighborhood associations during the campaign what priorities were. That would be helpful just in a general sense, but I think in a practical sense, I would like to know where you want them. I would like, if the neighborhood association can come up as a group and give me a priority list on projects that they think would really enhance livability in the neighborhood, that would be really helpful too. And we can matrix that with our other plans and see how consistent they are. I will be honest, $200 million across 2 districts is not enough to finish the job. As you might understand, it's very, very expensive to build sidewalks, and it's much more expensive to build them if you have to do them as a sort of integrated drainage and sewage, and Commissioner Fritz knows exactly what I'm talking about. But so there is the possibility that in some of our neighborhoods we might need to be flexible in expanding our definition of sidewalks. Olivia Clark offered an amendment that I thought was pretty good that said, or alternative pathways. Like there are some neighborhoods that could benefit from a little more trail support, widening of a shoulder. No, that's not as good as a sidewalk, but I think about 35th between Jackson Middle School and the bend where it goes to Stevenson, and there is no shoulder at all because there has been encroachment on the right of way. A widening of that little stretch would I think significantly enhance the ability for accessibility for the neighbors who live in that part of the in our district. And so anyway, I'm being long-winded in your question, but I just would really like to see what you want to see.
Okay, thank you. And I'll talk to you offline about the alternative path problem.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Our next question, Penny, you had your hand up first, if you'd like to go next.
I did have my hand up, but really my question got answered, so thank you.
Is there anybody in the room that has a question? Okay. There were a few questions in the chat. I don't know if you'd like to address Frank's. I might have addressed that in Beth's answer about how our sidewalks projects be prioritized. And then there's another question in the chat from Kathy as well.
Yeah, so Kathy's question, so system development charges are the costs that developers pay for creating new infrastructure like sidewalks and drainage and sewage connections when they do a new development. But they're only required to do it generally in the section that's immediately facing their property. And so what you may have seen is all these little stranded segments of sidewalk throughout the district that have like sidewalk ends here signs at both ends. And that's not very helpful, right? When we think about an integrated system. And so that's why I called out Shattuck very specifically as an example when I was talking about how we're going to prioritize things. I really do think that we need to complete the length that the property development is not going to do per their agreement by the city just kind of taking up that slack and completing it. Because if we don't do that when the development happens, it's going to be costlier later, and then we will have missed an opportunity to also improve the intersection there and make it safe for children to cross and for folks to walk their kids to school. They're not going to have bus service because they're within a mile of that, I think it's Bridal Mile Elementary School that they would go to, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe it's Hayhurst, I can't remember exactly. But anyway, they'll be within a mile of that school. And so they're either going to drive and get dropped off by their parents, or they're going to be able to join a bike bus. And I want them to join a bike bus. So we need to do that at this time. Yeah. So that's the answer to that question. And I think there's a broader debate that city council needs to have. And I want our neighborhood associations to think about this is philosophically, what is the right way to pay for infrastructure? The mayor and the governor issued a plan to help kickstart the production of housing. Like there's a bunch of permitted and ready to go housing developments in the city of Portland, thousands of them, but they're missing about 8%, 5 to 8% of their capital stack, and SDC waivers would complete those. And so we have an opportunity to get those projects going, but we would then lose the system development charge revenue that funds infrastructure. And so after the budget season, myself, Councilor Clark, and some others on the finance committee, we're going to convene a smaller working group to look at infrastructure finance and see if we need to bring to voters a new proposal on how to finance infrastructure in a more holistic sense and not through system development charges. And what we may find out is voters prefer system development charges, and that's what we'll do. But I think we're right for that conversation.
We have a question from Corinne.
Yeah.
Thank you. My name is Corinne Wallace. I live in the Multnomah Neighborhood Association, volunteer with the Multnomah Neighborhood, or live in Multnomah. I volunteer with the Neighborhood Association on the board. I live on a street with no sidewalks. And there was a development that was built. I'm just going to share a super brief story and keep it really, really high level. But while this subject is on topic, it might be useful in other neighborhoods on how we've done things. So I live on Southwest Canby Street, which was a proposal for like a phase 2 greenway that's probably was projected to be done 20 years out in the Southwest in Motion project. At the end of the street was a development putting in about 25 units, and we met with the developer, and with a pretty hard push from the neighborhood and the community, we blatantly asked for funding to complete the Greenway project that was already established by PBOT, and the developer met us there. The current plan is for the developer to put the actual speed bumps in while he's doing the paving in his new development. And then PBOT comes through and just does the signage and the painting. So super low cost for PBOT. We're bringing to life a project that should have happened in 20 years. And now it's happening in the next 6 months. So it is worth asking those developers if it's something that we can do. And it's, I think, from PBOT's perspective, one of the first time that it's ever happened. And it's took 4 years, but it's coming to life. So it's worth the ask, is just what I kind of want to point out and plant that seed for other projects where we can maybe get creative on how these things come to life in the future.
I really appreciate that vignette, and it reminds me of the Alpenrose development, which I was talking about in regards to Shattuck. I was meeting with someone in the Hayhurst neighborhood recently. They came to my Sellwood office hours, and they said that the developer wants to do those street improvements. They've offered to do some speed bumps. They've offered to kind of pay for some of the light and signal and intersection improvements, but PBOT is sort of being stubborn and saying, well, we don't have the traffic to warrant such a thing. And so some of this is culture. There's like change management and culture questions. There is a new city council, new form of government, and I think that there's a little less. I think the bureaus are used to operating in a certain way, I think. And now they're hearing directly from neighborhood associations 12-fold, and so I think there's opportunities to change some behavior there. But that's a really valuable vignette, and I'll share that with, I might ask to read it in committee sometime, because I think it's a really powerful story.
Sure. I'll give you one more. I don't think speed bumps are the right answer. I think sidewalks are the right answer. We don't have sidewalks. We have a narrow street. We have cars that honk at pedestrians to get the heck out of the way when pedestrians have right of way when there's no sidewalks, but it's what we can get. So we'll take it. However, I don't think it's necessarily the right solution, but we'll take what we can get. And that's just like one little inch at a time. So, but anyway, thank you. Happy to listen in on anything that you've got, Mitch, and would love to participate in this project because I do think it's very valuable to bring sidewalks to the Southwest. And it is a challenging topography to bring them here. But love that you're campaigning for it. I think it's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. And then there's a utility rates question in the chat from earlier that I am prepared to talk to if there's no other questions about sidewalks. Oh, it looks like Bill,
Penny has her
you're-
hand up.
Okay.
Okay, now you can.
Yeah, so it's a question about sidewalks in quotes. Up along Shattuck, it would be ideal, I would think, to have a trail that acts as a sidewalk. Because it's just kind of like, it'll give some people who don't have much exposure on a regular basis to a woodland like that, or a kind of a rural like looking area, and it has a feel to it as well. But I don't know if that would be possible if it were put on the right-hand side, which would be the north side, I think. No, the east
West
side.
or east.
Would be going through several people's land. But on the other side, for the old dairy, may only be one place, only one owner.
I can, I'm taking that note down. I'll talk to PBOT and ask what the developer's plans in. My understanding is that the developer's already committed to a section of sidewalk that's in front of their development, but not the other extension pieces. And so if they've already got a sidewalk development plan, that might conflict with the trail, but I think in general, I like the idea of trails and being somewhat creative in our topography, but they're not accessible in the same way a sidewalk is for folks with mobility challenges. So that's the thing I try to think
Good
about.
point.
Yeah.
Good point.
Okay.
Okay.
I think that's it for the sidewalk questions. We'll need to move on. I believe, Mitch, you had a couple of other
Right.
topics you wanted to address
Flat.
today.
And
Yeah.
centers.
I'll say,
Even
I'll
centers.
speak to the
People on
utility rates
mute.
question. Because there was a comment in the very beginning of the chat. And I just want to be transparent about the relationship between the rates that we pay on our utility bill and the revenues that they're created and how they can be used. So the Portland Bureau, well, our Public Works Service area had proposed a combined 6.3% rate increase last year to fund their aging infrastructure work. I have serious qualms with their rate formula, particularly the way that you charge for your drainage area. Like my bill on a personal level went up $100 relative to last time. I think it's because of the size of my lot. And I have open questions about that. But in the short budget period where we had to make a decision on whether or not to approve a rate increase to fund the book of work that our public works utilities have, I thought it was irresponsible to stick with previous Mayor Wheeler's suggestion to lower the rate increase by 5%, which is kind of there's a couple moving levers there. I think it was sort of a symbolic move to say we're gonna slow down the rate increase. It had a 50 cent per month average of impact on ratepayers, but it had a $2 million impact on the public works section's budget, which would then result in layoffs and a delay in planned work when we already have a very poor infrastructure card and just an aging system that we have to deal with. And so that's one of those situations where I never want to be the guy that raises rates. I used to work in a rate making institution, and we try to avoid it at all costs. But you have to balance what's good for the health of our infrastructure as a whole with the impact of the ratepayer. And 50 cents on average didn't seem like something that was worth delaying our investment in our city, which would then be costlier later on anyway. So I do intend to dig deep into the way that our public works bureaus set rates and how they decide who pays what share of the total system cost. But that's going to be a more deliberate process than we have time for now. But it doesn't affect the general fund in any way. So speaking, just wanted to clarify that. And then I think I saw a question from Frank. I'd love to talk about how the 12 of us work together. You know, I gotta say, I ran in a very different lens and different politics than my colleagues in District 4, Councilor Zimmerman and Clark. You know, I was an open socialist on the campaign trail. I'm a left progressive. You wouldn't think we'd get along, but we've been working really well together and supporting each other's resolutions and kind of divvying up the work when we think about how to be responsive to our constituents. And so there are some areas that I have subject matter expertise in, like such as infrastructure and housing, and I've kind of taken the lead on a lot of that work. I've got there's parts of the district that have acute issues with you know, public safety, mental health crisis, and kind of you know, drug-related activities that impact feelings of public safety. My colleagues have been on that, and I think together we've covered a range of issues that are pretty pressing in the couple months we've been in office. I've co-authored resolutions with my District 4 councilors, as well as folks from across the district, such as Loretta Smith and District 1. And so I think what I have noticed so far is that we do not agree on everything, but I think that there is a willingness to argue the merits of a situation and not engage in personal attacks. I mean, I've seen a little bit of that. It's kind of muted, but I think in general, we're willing to separate politics from the policy and the impact on our city. And I'm pretty hopeful for that. In terms of the budget, I think the mayor delivered us a fantastic budget to start with that has left us in a situation that we can make small adjustments to meet most Portlanders' needs. And so I have been working with other city councilors on ways to kind of make little tweaks here that keep the things that we all want to fund whole, such as parks. And so I'll say on that, and I think I've enjoyed having in-district days on Fridays in Sellwood. My intention is to bring that to other neighborhoods too, as we get our capacity, but we've been a little busy with the budget cycle. But Multnomah Art Center is one of the areas I've looked at. There's libraries in Northwest Portland. I've looked at the Friendly House, but I started with Sellwood because that's a part of the district that from the start has felt really left out, and they were really worried that they were going to be forgotten about as a part of District 4. And so folks have come, they've brought their ideas, they've brought their complaints, and we've just kind of talked through it. And so far we received pretty positive reactions to that. So.
Thank you, Mitch.
Uh-huh.
It sounds like, yeah, we have a lot of, having you here would be good again. But we have one more question in, or a comment here in person, and then we will move on with other topics.
Hey, Councilor Green, Steph McAndrew, Chair, Transportation Chair. Just want to thank you so much for coming and talking with us, but also in putting together the SIPP, getting it through the first hurdle. It's fantastic. And in October of 23, we held a transportation open house here at the Multnomah Art Center, where we solicited input on what people want. And my goal is try to knock out another updated version of that with the specific focus on sidewalks and trails, and then also pavement is the last piece of that whole puzzle, so that we can get you our neighborhood's priority list and source it from everybody.
That's wonderful. I'm really excited to work with you on that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I think that there's one question from Lisa Carney Fenton in the chat that I want to address if I have time.
We can give you a couple minutes. Yes.
Okay, thank you. It's a good question. So the question is, with the mayor's plan to expand overnight and day shelters, how are you going to support the neighbors adjacent to the sites? Will you implement perimeter security and selection of the sites away from homes? So the mayor put in, so first of all, high level, I'm inclined to support the mayor's plan this year. I think it's new. He's got a lot of energy behind it, and I think we really need that in the city right now. And so I'm willing to give him a shot to see how it goes. I think the alternative, Safe Rest Villages and the task sites have been a good model, and they need to be continued to support. But what I really appreciated in his budget, in addition to that, was he put in a little extra money for some enhanced cleaning and outside perimeter outreach, security, and frankly, non-police support for livability and safety outside of those Safe Rest Villages. And I think that was a direct nod to the livability concerns that some of our neighborhoods have dealt with, and it kind of doubling down on the good neighbor partnership on those. And so prepared to support that. Like anything we publish or like anything we adopt, you adopt it and then you check in and you do oversight to make sure things are working. And so I think this neighborhood association is a critical part of that. And so that's kind of my reaction to that part of the budget so far.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for coming, Counselor. We really appreciate your time and would love for you to stay on for the rest of our meeting if it fits within your busy schedule, but also understand that you've got other things to do, and hopefully we will have you back in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. We will be back, and I'm late for dinner with my wife, so I'm going to go, but thanks so much for having us.
Understandable. Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, so we're going to move on. So a little behind, but not too far with our committee reports. So as we talked about last time, please refer to the full reports that are all on the drive for the details. And we're going to use this time to highlight any specific updates or topics or needs that the committees have for within their reports. So up first, we have transportation with Stefan, which was a nice segue from our sidewalk conversation.
Yes, that's
Sure, this will be pretty quick, so I think we just covered most of it now. Well,
who does the Multnomah Net.
the city was able to, or the city council is hopefully going to be able to get the sidewalk and pavement program over the last hurdle, in which case, it will be the most aggressive funding of active transportation projects in Multnomah in probably decades. And so I'd like to put together an open house, as I mentioned before. So details to come out on that, I'll contact some of you offline, and then come out for Sunday Parkways. It's on Sunday. It's going to be a great chance to get to find people from Peabody and ask them why there aren't sidewalks here and there. You'll probably see me rallying up people to bring your pitchforks out, because it is a great opportunity for us to have people see some of the horrible conditions that we have here. And there's a number of other pseudo transportation related things that I think other folks will be talking about later, so I won't steal their thunder. That is all I have for right now.
Okay, thank you. Question?
Will people have a booth?
Peabody's gonna have multiple booths. I do believe over at Gabriel Park will be their sort of base. So they will have lots of stuff over by the oaks, large oaks by the new playground. And then there'll also be another set of stuff at Spring Garden Park. I believe that was hosted by Kaiser last year. I'm not sure, but probably similar. And then the village will have along Capitol Highway, I think some streets closed down with this as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Stefan. Up next is community events with Pam.
Hi, everybody. There is a report filed in the meeting materials, and in addition to that, I don't have any updates.
Okay, that was quick. Thanks. Equity, Will, do you have a report to share with us?
We do. The report is online, but I want to highlight one thing that is new. We are starting to have regular meetings, and the meeting time is the third Thursday of every month at 7 o'clock via Zoom, and the Zoom link is in our report and also on our calendar. But I welcome anyone who wants to come by and share equity ideas with us. We're welcome. We'll be going into a variety of things. One of them is, how do we help change the culture to be more in line with our equity goals in ways that are natural parts of what we do rather than something get imposed on. So take a look at our report in the meeting materials, and I hope to see some of you there.
Thanks, Will. And just to confirm, that is 7 p.m.
7 p.m., yes, not in the morning.
All right. Up next is Julie with our Livability Committee.
Hi, this is Julie. We also have a report submitted on all of the super fun things that we are doing in the neighborhood. I did want to do a humble brag, no, a straight up brag though, since on Saturday, we received a Metro grant to support underserved populations that could not take advantage of the City of Portland Dumpster Day event that happened at St. Luke's, which was a huge success, right? Tons of people, but if you don't have a truck, you don't have friends and family, you don't have, you know, people to move your couch and get it there, what good does that do? So the neighborhood association partnered with Meals on Wheels and Neighborhood House and Southwest Equity Coalition and different faith organizations and Section 8 housing, and we identified and worked with 30 households and removed 10 tons of trash or 10 tons of debris to the landfill, I think 13 to 15 mattresses, and then almost a full box truck of reusable furniture to community warehouse. So we did with very limited funds. The IWL's lacrosse team came and did the literally heavy lifting, and then some of the members of the board helped drive, and it was just a lovely event all the way around. Everybody was just very enthused, and it was you know, City of Portland helped and Metro helped and the neighborhood helped, and it was just a really wonderful experience. And if anybody wants to know other things that are going to be happening with livability and community events, there's information on our site, and also you can maybe somebody can put something in the chat. I don't know if what magical people do that to sign up to be specifically notified about opportunities to volunteer. We can do that as well. Who's next?
Sanjuro is not here for public safety, so
Sanjuro is in Mexico on a beach somewhere, so I'm going to say that public safety is not. He did submit a report.
he did.
But he cannot present.
I didn't provide an update because the update was that I joined this committee.
Oh, that's
Just
Oh,
say that you
hello,
wrote update
everyone.
was
So I just recently joined the public safety committee. So yeah, glad to be here and have our
your name.
Michelle Orenfeld.
Welcome.
Welcome, Michelle. Thank you. Okay. Up next then is Friends of Spring Garden Park. Pam, do you have a report? Or-
There's a report online and no further comments about it in the meeting.
Okay, thank you. And not an official committee, but we do have a communications task force. Will, do you have anything you'd like to share there?
Well, yes, again, we have a report online. What we are doing is widening the communications effectiveness in our operation. The task force is a group of people who are doing communications, and we're learning how to communicate with each other in effective ways. One of the things we just did was the Memories of Moses, where we had to run things rather rapidly in a variety of ways. And it's, I think, a very effective way to operate. We're not officially a committee, but we're a task force meeting. We work for action more than meetings.
Good, thank you, Will. Okay, Beth, do you have anything you'd like to share for District 4? Wait, where'd Beth go? Just kidding.
I may be back.
Oh,
Yeah,
there she is. Okay, thank you. Beth, is that you that just joined? Okay, we can come back to you. Okay, our last committee is the Monoma Safe Rest Village, CAC. Mark and Lisa, I'm not sure who's going to be presenting. or
Yeah,
sharing.
so our report's posted on the Neighborhood Association website on our CAC page. Briefly, we spent the last month working to try and understand the possible potential change from Sunstone Way to Urban Alchemy or someone else as the operator of the Safe Rest Village. I think we have heard that that is not a done deal, but we read the very next day that it's a done deal. So I think it's a done deal. We've also in our CAC meetings with the city and others kind of kept up on the issues of light intrusion from the Safe Rest Village into neighbors' homes, noise, and the availability or not of perimeter security, meaning our neighborhood ambassadors. The neighborhood ambassadors work basically weekdays. They're not available on the weekends currently or in the evenings. And I think the neighbors would appreciate it if that was added, but the city representatives on the CAC don't seem to, they don't believe that that can be added into the mix currently. And they also feel that they've done all they can with respect to the lighting. So I don't know how much time we have in this meeting for our thing, but I think we would certainly want a venue for discussing the next step according to the Good Neighbor Agreement for at least a couple of these issues, particularly the lighting, and that is to go to mediation. And Diane, I'll let you tell us if we have time to talk about that or not.
We do have time.
Okay. So that would be the next step from the standpoint of the Good Neighbor Agreement, if we have sort of hit the wall in trying to have a situation corrected. Again, the city representatives say they've all done all they could at this point, and what they've done is turned off some of the lights, but we still have neighbors that are affected by the lights. And again, I mentioned the neighborhood ambassadors having sort of limited hours. So mediation would be the next step, but mediation is, the process is not clearly defined in the Good Neighbor Agreement. There's money involved and who initiates it and who pays for it and so forth. And I think Lisa's got a little bit of information on the mediation, so I'll turn it over to her.
Hi, thanks, Mark. So I spoke with Sarah Matarazzo today. She was an attorney I used to work with, and she's a mediator and facilitator. Her fee is $325 an hour. And usually in mediation cases, the fees are split 50-50 between the two parties. She asked at the time we talked if we have had a meeting with the mayor or if we've had a meeting with all of our District 4 reps, because we can't seem to solve this lighting problem, the noise problems for the neighbors on the north side, and the perimeter security. And she estimated it would be 20 to 30 hours of her time to prepare for the mediation and oversee the mediation. So we're talking about $9,000–10,000. So then I thought that seemed really high, but then I went and looked at the budget, and the free library, livability, Spring Garden Park, street art, and Village Park, those funds, they were all given about $700–800. And so I'm just kind of putting it out there that Mark and I and Paloma and Mary have been in the trenches for over a year and a half trying to solve these problems, and we're not moving forward. We're frustrated, and we need the support of the board to take the next step, whatever that may be. And so that's why I'm here tonight, and that's why I did all the research on this. And I just want to add a couple more things. My husband took a drone and went straight up from our property. We live directly across the street from the site. This is the site as it is right now. And if you look closely, you'll see right here, these neighbors with a squiggly line have a big buffer of property and a fence. But one of the neighbors right here where the box is, her bedroom is right up against the pods. And we have been trying for a year to get her to be able to sleep at night and not have wine bottles thrown over and hit her house. I mean, this woman has been through hell and back. She should be able to enjoy her home. She should be able to use her yard. And I don't understand why we can't step up and support the people that are living near the site. The other piece is this is a shot at the place at night. And it doesn't seem so bright, but if you look all around, it's black. Those are all residential properties. We scanned the whole area. There's no commercial site or residential site in the whole neighborhood that is as bright as this facility. They've overlit it because the Sunstone Way employees say they don't feel safe. So they overlight it, which glares light into all the adjacent neighbors' homes. We've worked for almost 9 months to resolve the problem. We can't get it resolved. We need the board's support. We need the neighbors' support to solve these issues. It is just, Mark and Mary and Paloma and I have spent hours and hours. We're not making little murals and doing fun stuff. We're in the trenches trying to solve these problems, and we need everyone's support.
Okay, thank you, Lisa, for sharing all that with us. I'd like to just kind of clarify a few points that you made, especially with regards to the finances in the treasury. So a lot of those projects are they're funded through grants and donations. So M&A is 100% volunteer and 100% donation-based organization. We only have funds if they're donated or, if we have a sponsored or if we get a grant to do a specific project. Otherwise, there are no funds. So, we understand that mediation is what you're asking for as a next step, but we really need to understand what that looks like. Because there are fees for that. There are lawyers involved, and it costs money that M&A doesn't currently have a surplus of funds to just give that to use to mediation. We would have to raise those funds in order to do that.
And is the board willing to start reaching out and raise those funds?
I would really love to see a plan in place of what, how you would like to raise those funds, what mediation looks like, what the timeline is, what is the outcome that you're hoping to receive. Either way, because you don't know what the outcome is going to be with mediation, and what type of mediation they want. Is it just going to be the mediator? Is it going to be a judge mediator? So I think for the whole neighborhood, having a detailed plan of what it is that you need our support in, then we can kind of review it and have a better understanding of what that whole process looks like and how to raise the funds to make that happen as well.
Just to clarify, are you asking us to say how to raise the funds?
Yes, this would be your project, right? As a committee, all the other committees have projects and they raise the funds for it. So this would be a type of project. No?
Our committee isn't really set up that way, though. We're set up through the Good Neighbor Agreement to be representatives of the neighborhood association to this larger committee, the Community Advisory Committee. It's kind of a different animal, I think. Not that we wouldn't have marvelous ideas amongst us to how to raise funds, but we're already spending quite a lot of time just trying to navigate these things with us for our fellow neighbors. So anyway,
Yeah, we understand you guys are doing a lot of that hard work. Okay, we have a question here in person, so I'm going to pass the mic over. Oh, I don't know if that one's working.
All right, thanks. I'm happy now, I don't know the adjacent to the SRB, but I've been following this conversation for.
We can't hear.
Oh. Should be on.
About now.
You keep something at 9
About now. About
But
now.
he put the mic closer to his mouth.
I'm kissing the mic. I don't even know what that was. How about now? Now? Hello? Yes? Anyway, I'm Pat Burnett. I don't live adjacent to the SRB, but I live in the neighborhood or have property in the neighborhood and been following this issue for a number of years now. Mediation is the big step, and I leave that to the board to decide about finances. But overall, I'm just going to state my opinion. The SRB has not really been an asset to the neighborhood. It's advanced the agenda of the city and a small number of people who are committed to its success. The city has benefited the nonprofit organizations that have run it, previously Sunstone Way and now Urban Health coming up. But the M&A has, for the last few years, been relatively neutral and a convener of conversation, but really hasn't, in my opinion, been an advocate for voices such as Lisa's and Mark's. And I would say this in context of the mayor's new plan to expand the number of shelters, including day shelters, which would be in churches, community centers, as well as more nighttime shelters. Now, there's no immediate plan for this neighborhood, but I think everything is on the table. And the M&A, I believe, should be a strong voice for accountability from the city and from the nonprofits that run these operations. So far, the activities within the SRB have been relatively vague. It's very difficult to get any hard data about intake and output, throughput. And so we really don't know if they're doing what they're supposed to do to the tune of millions of dollars. They are a guest in our neighborhood, to be perfectly frank. And so in that regard, they should be exclusively attuned to and responsive to the concerns of the neighbors. And M&A should be the same. Frankly, I've been frustrated with M&A because it's been purported to be neutral. Although I believe, that, well, let me just put it this way. M&A could have been much more vocal in its opposition to this SRB. It never was. And now that we've had a track record, and we have established that these folks that live next to it have been negatively affected to the tune of even potentially decreased property values, certainly activities outside and within the SRB, that it's time for the M&A and the board and the new structure of the board to start stepping up and being a vocal, loud voice for the city and these new councilors that have been elected, especially District 4, to be more of an advocate for voices like Mark and Lisa and people that live adjacent to the neighborhood. Imagine Friday night lights outside your bedroom 7 nights a week. Okay, drive by it. It's horrible, as well as all the loud activity that goes on inside and around the SRB. So that would be my message to the NNA. Just step up, stop trying to kowtow or be a nice voice for the city. It's time for some strong, loud advocacy, because things could only get worse. I don't think they're going to get any better with the new mandate from the mayor. So if we can get Mitch and Zimmerman and Olivia to be on our side on this, it would be a real asset. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Thank you. Amanda, you have your hand raised?
Yeah, I put this in the chat, but I would suggest that the board pass a resolution asking the District 4 councillors to fund the mediation. They do have money in their budgets for stuff. The city used to fund mediation for any neighborhood association until Chloe Eudaly destroyed the system. But the council offices do have some fungible funding, and I would suggest that this is a very reasonable request to ask them to take care of this issue, because the light and the noise issue really needs to be taken care of.
That's an excellent suggestion. Thank you, Amanda. I would still love to hear from the other neighbors, anyone's thoughts, one way or the other. Anyone else has any comments they'd like to share? Oh, we have one in the room.
Lots to go here. I'm very supportive of the SRV, and I wonder though, what mediation would achieve, what do you expect it to achieve here? Because usually in mediation, a mediator finds some kind of middle ground. And if you think that you're gonna get all that you want out of the mediation after spending a lot of money, I think you're kidding yourself. So I wonder what kind of solution you would expect after a lot of time and money in mediation. You're hoping that the city will do what you ask them to do. But I'm not sure that that's what you're gonna get. So I think before we spend a lot of money, you have to be realistic about what kind of results you expect you're gonna get out of it.
Thank you. Anybody else have any comments? Lisa?
Just to respond to that, the mediator did say that we could hire an attorney and file a lawsuit for nuisance lighting, noise nuisance, the depreciation of property value, and safety in our neighborhood declining. So we don't want to do that. So that's why we're hoping for mediation to get the lighting fixed. It's not, Frank is an architect, Mark's a lighting expert. This isn't rocket science. We have ways to solve these problems. We have tried for 9 months working with the city and we're getting stonewalled. And it's time to escalate just a bit because all of these problems are fixable. They're all doable. It's not that complicated.
Yeah, I'm sure we can all come together and think outside the box as well, you know, about possible other avenues that we can take to fix some of these problems. Frank. You're up next.
Yeah, I'd just like to, echo Amanda Fritz's comment that the board should generate a resolution asking for the city to fund this because, you know, when we created the good neighbor agreement, you know, the option to mediate when there were, you know, when there was no resolution and agreement about the actions of the city was put in there, but it's meaningless if we then have to raise, you know, go out and you're asking us to raise thousands of dollars to take this on. No, that should be you know, addressed by the city, and you need to please create a resolution to that effect, requesting funding from the city.
Thank you, Frank. Anyone else have any open forum? Okay, thank you, Lisa and Mark, for sharing this. I think, you know, we've heard from several neighbors and it sounds like you have a lot of support within the neighborhood. Just, you know, we would like to see a plan, what did the mediation look like? So I'm happy to connect with you guys and offer support and helping you a little bit with that. And then we can check in with the board about Amanda's suggestion, and we'll be in touch again. Okay. That puts us right on schedule at 8:15.
Couple hands up. Beth and Penny and Bill have hands up.
Okay, sorry, Penny, go ahead.
No, it's Bill. Would it not be helpful?
Get your hands down.
Our guest has, in his position as a representative, he could probably help out. I mean, he's an ally.
He's gone.
And he he offered, if there's anything more he can do. Well, it sounds like there's more that he could do.
Our councilman?
Yeah, the councilman.
Maria is still on.
Since you're dealing with the city.
Maria is still on as his chief of staff, so maybe she has jotted down some notes. I'm not gonna put you on the spot, Maria, unless you want to.
I am taking notes. Thanks for still having me here. You have other ways to pass on formal input to the counselors. Some of you may have already exercised the option to contact all 12 of your counselors with one message. You also have the option to contact all 3 of them, or you can contact each of them individually, and we read all the messages. So feel free to exercise whichever method works best for you. Our office advertises our actual counselor email, so you're welcome to use that anytime. I know some neighborhood associations like to put forward a specific list of concerns or questions that they have. That's one way you could do that on a regular basis, a quarterly basis, and we're here for all of it. So we attend these meetings too to be able to take notes of some of your ongoing questions and concerns.
So could you just address though, please, what could Councillor Green potentially do about this particular issue?
Can you rephrase it? Some of the audio was fading for me.
You've heard the discussion, so we can send another email, but you are now aware of the issue. I'm wondering if Councillor Green could do something to help with the mediation about the lights problem and the noise problem at the Safe Rest Village.
Sure. Yes, we could follow up on that. You don't have to send an email if you're not interested in doing that.
Yeah, in my experience, the fill in the blank online form, I haven't had any responses from any of them. So, it's nice that you're here and I appreciate you staying here. And if you could pass along about this issue and ask Councillor Green to maybe get back to Diane, the president, about what should be done, that would be very helpful.
Okay, that sounds good. So who would you like me to respond to directly? Is that to Diane
Yes.
with our?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I can't see Diane readily on my screen. So if you can just put Diane's contact information in the chat, whoever has that handy. Thank you.
Oh, I can.
Okay, thank you. Oh, Julie said she would put my email in the chat, or it was Julie, right? Thank you, Julie.
And some issues, this is something in the new form of government that also is a carryover from the old commission form of government. But when it comes to some issues related to maintenance, noise, safety, those get routed to 311 directly because they're more able to address some of the issues quickly. I'm seeing some heads nodding no, but a lot of them, if they are sent over the phone or online, they get routed to those types of offices who can report on the ground more readily than a counselor's office. So they tend to take care of those things. But if there's like a long-term policy issue, for example, where it's going to take lots of coordination, getting a political champion, those tend to be the types of things that council offices take on. So I just want to create that distinction because sometimes there's like, a nuisance that's happening on the street corner, a tree branch, or like a pipe issue. And sometimes residents send all of those to the counselor inboxes and we really can't address some kind of like safety or flood issue. But then 311 will take care of them. And then sometimes people send policy issues to 311. So there's like a routing that has to happen. So thanks for that, for your patience with that. I tend to come to the neighborhood meetings where some people are learning about these things for the first time. So I don't mean to like underestimate your knowledge around the system, but it's just an ongoing education that we tend to do for residents who are not familiar with the system at all.
Yeah, in this particular case, the neighbors have called 311 till they're blue in the face. So it really does rise to the level of a policy challenge.
Okay, well, sometimes those issues, if they're repeated, they don't make their way directly. So for you to communicate, that's great. Folks at 311 are dealing with a lot of things, and I know they're trying to find the best ways to route these when it has to have like a policy issue to address it.
So I'd just like to chime in. I'd like to chime in here and just say that the mediator I spoke with when I was trying to find out the process, the cost, how much time, she did say that we could have, she asked if we had met with the mayor directly or if we've met with our District 4 counselors. And so maybe the neighborhood association would support the CAC, the 4 of us, doing that before we went to mediation. Maybe there's a solve right there. But we need to do something. It's been 9 months. And so we need to move forward and get this problem solved.
That's a great idea, Lisa. I'd be happy to work with you and Beth, our DC4 representative, and see if that's a pathway we can take to meet with them and possibly with the mayor as well before we move any further with a mediation plan. I'd like to move on. Penny, is your question quick?
Just a quick thing. I think since homelessness is a really big issue for the mayor, that would be exactly the way to go. Focus it on that. One of the solutions for that is the Safe Rest Village, but it's being endangered. So we need his help.
And I would think, as the mayor or any of these counselors, if we're talking about setting up more facilities, whether they're overnight or day shelters, all these adjacent neighbors can speak to all the things that work and don't work. You'd think that they would come to us and say, how's it going and what's not working, and let's problem solve. That seems to be the best way to navigate our situation and to help them prepare for their expansion of other sites. I don't think anyone here wants to have the school or the church, the building next door, and 50 people in there with no perimeter security. I can't imagine that any neighborhood wants that. And so we need to find ways to make these sites work, figure out what is not working, and move forward that way.
Thank you, everyone, for your input. It's very, very valued, and I love hearing from everyone. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on then to the ending portion of our agenda. So just have a few announcements. I wanted to mention that Moses' family is hosting a memorial service for him this coming Saturday at the Multnomah Arts Center. All are welcome to attend. And thank you to everyone who has stepped in to help them with this event. So at this time, I kind of wanted to invite anyone on Zoom or here in person who would like to share a brief story or kind words about Moses. Open it up, and I'm happy to stay on for as long as anyone wants to say or talk about anything. Anybody have a story they want to share? Okay.
This is Julie Leet. I do want to, I think about, I think it was during the pandemic. This guy found my contact information, and his name was Patrick, and he called me. He's like, hey, I hear you remove graffiti. Will you come and talk to this neighborhood association? I'm a neighbor. And I'm like, okay. So I did, and getting to know Moses in a short Zoom meeting or two, all of a sudden I became the secretary of the neighborhood association. And honestly, I do not remember a vote. I don't remember. I think, you know, in talking with Moses and really understanding his excitement and enthusiasm in supporting the community, I may have asked. I can't imagine at this point in my life, looking back, thinking I would have, but I must have. And that's just a testament to, you know, spending time with Moses was, whether you liked it or not, you were going to start getting excited and really empathetic and and really connecting with others. And I just try when I'm tired and when I'm not feeling fully energetic in my support of the community, I really think about how Moses was just always had time, always had an ear, always had a shoulder, always had ideas, always had words of enthusiasm. And I'm just lucky to have known him and spent time with him.
Corinne?
Thanks for opening this up, Diane. This is a tough meeting, and I think I'm just gonna let myself cry if I need to cry, and this is the place to do it. You know, I've been living in this neighborhood for just shy of 6 years. And I'm kind of a neighborhood nerd. So as soon as we moved here, I joined the neighborhood association. And it was just slightly before COVID, so there was still some activity, and then everything kind of fell apart. And for a while, it was just a very small handful of us that showed up for the neighborhood association meeting. And I think we were in transition for the board. And Will, correct me if I'm wrong, but we were in search of a new president or a chair of the association, and Will and his wife Edith on a walk ran into Moses in the neighborhood, which is so charming about this neighborhood is that you run into people, you go into the village, you see about 6 to 12 people that you know on any given day, you make some sort of connection, and something happens that changes either the course of your day or the course of your 5 years. And Will ran into Moses and asked him to step up and chair the neighborhood association. And we went from a floundering 6 to 8 people that were trying to hold this organization together during COVID to how many people you see sitting and joining this meeting here today. And we're now a 501c3. We're supporting the struggles of both sides of the SRV. We have political dialogue with all the council people. We have strength and growth in our neighborhood and people who see each other and feel connected in this neighborhood. And that is the essence of Moses. And I can't tell you how many times I called that person and said, I've got an idea. I want to do X, I want to do Y, I want to do Z. How can we do it? And he said he would always show up every time. And it's just outstanding the type of character that that person had and the reach that he had in this neighborhood. So I feel very grateful for the connection that I had with that person. We didn't share family relation, but we did share community, and so many people I have met through Moses, and the reach that he has had in our community is quite outstanding. So I feel very fortunate that he has touched my life and that I'm part of this organization. I'm part of this neighborhood that he loved and he helped build to what it is. I hope to see many of you on Saturday to show honor for Moses and what he's done for our community and to support his daughter. Oh, that was vulnerable. Thank you for letting me to share that in this music. Whew, it's not very often that I do stuff like that. That was hard, but I will show up for Moses the way he showed up for me. I will show up for him, and I will show up for this community, and I will show up for his daughter. Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your vulnerability with us and sharing lovely story, lovely words. Appreciate you. Amanda, would you like to go? Did you have your hand raised?
Always try to encourage everybody. I'm actually in Chicago, so unfortunately I'm visiting my family. I'm the celebrations. I'm sorry about that. But you just captured the essence of what a good community leader does and what a good community builder does. And I think also I remember his leadership during the debates on the Safe Rest Village, where we had 60, 70 or more people. And he was juggling, everybody had really passionate investment in all sides of the issue. And he did a magnificent job of making sure that the meeting stayed courteous, that people were heard, that everybody took their turn. It's really been a huge change around from 20, 30 years ago, when the Multnomah Neighborhood Association, which is frankly known for being the most contentious, even within itself, neighborhood association, whereas now we're known for the community that has been built through Moses' leadership. And so I hope that each of us, when it's our time to go, can look back up. We'll have done half what he's done for our communities. It's been an absolute honor to know him.
Thank you, Beth.
Oh dear. Around 20 years ago, 20 years ago, I was just finishing my research and I thought, well, now it's time for me to look around and see what's going on in my neighborhood. So I learned about the neighborhood association. I walked across the street. Moses was president at the time, or chair at the time, and there were maybe 8 people in the meeting, and that went on for a few months, just 8 people in the meeting. And then, like Julie, I don't know what happened, but suddenly I was vice president or vice chair. And he and I were pretty much partners for many years until there was this administration change, I'll say. And Moses and I both stepped away from the organization for a few years. Then when he got drafted, thanks, Will, into becoming chair again, he called me up and said, be my vice chair. So, of course, I said yes. And then we continued to work together. And then I got sick, as many of you know, and I was away from home for 7 months and blah, blah, blah. And then I called my daughter. I said, please call Moses. Tell him I'm alive. Tell him I need to stay connected with the neighborhood and that I will be back. That was the only phone call I asked my daughter to make in Oregon, other than doctors. And she did that. And Moses kept a place for me until I came back. And after I came back, it was just my privilege to be his vice chair and then vice president. We had a really close working relationship, and he was my first friend that I ever had in Oregon. And I've seen Emma since she was a little kid. When the women's shelter was open up, at Sears Armory, I was doing some, just on my own, doing some recruitment of whatever donations. And the Healthy Pets Northwest brought over 80 pounds of dog kibble. And I called Moses. I was like, I don't know what to do with all of this. We can't just drag that over to the, it needs to be broken up. So he got Emma and another Girl Scout to come to my house. He brought over a bunch of baggies, and we spent the whole day breaking down that kibble into little manageable sized baggies to take over to the women's shelter to feed the dogs. That's just one teeny little thing that Moses made happen in the neighborhood that symbolizes all the big things that he did. Anyway, I'm going to cry, so I'm going to stop.
Thank you, Beth. That was lovely. Penny?
So Corinne, when you mentioned about his showing up, it reminded me of a wonderful little quote from, well, I forget who the quote was from, but showing up is 80% of life. It was Woody Allen. It was Woody Allen who said it. Showing up is 80% of life. So there's 3/4 of it right there. More than 3/4 of it right there. And I was thinking the same thing even before you were talking about that and said, you know, he was present, which is another way to put it, being present. And you can't be present unless you show up.
Thank you. You know, I really appreciate you guys all sharing such lovely stories about Moses, and I'm sure there'll be many more at his memorial service on Saturday. Hold on.
One thing, and I'll put it in the chat, if anyone has photographs of Moses, please, I'm gonna share, it's rememberingmosesross@gmail.com. We are putting together a slideshow that will be shared at the celebration of life, but more importantly, given to his daughter. And we all have fun, amazing photographs, you know, good, bad, fuzzy, of doing all sorts of different things with Moses. Please take a minute, go through your phone, send them there. Please do that. Please do that if you can.
Thank you. So, you know, I feel like there's a theme from a lot of the stories we were hearing about Moses being present, always showing up, being involved in the community, getting others involved, whether you wanted to or not. And given, you know, M&A's mission, I think Moses was a part of helping to create that of community engagement. You know, I believe it's really fitting to honor Moses' spirit and his love for Multnomah Village with a living memorial, you know, something that invites an ongoing participation from the community. I'd really love to open the floor if anyone has any ideas on a living memorial that might reflect Moses' contributions or values he stood for. I'm putting you guys on the spot, but if anyone has an idea, oh, we have ideas. Okay, hold on in the room first. Julie?
I think you had brought it up first, an idea of a community bench somewhere in the village that would encourage resting and connection, and it seems achievable. It seems something that it seems achievable and in line with his memory. Just an idea.
And I'll second that because
Not emotion.
the very last conversation I had with Moses, I pitched an idea that in 2026, I'd like to de-pave the very small triangle that's at 35th and Falcon where we had the slip lane closed. So just to block off the food courts and get some shade trees planted that in 30 years would be nice big trees and have a bench there. Of course, his bubbly personality was very cheerful and supportive. That's a great idea, blah, blah, blah. So my goal is to have a bench there and 2 shade trees, you know, sometime, you know, this time next year. A lot of work to plan it, but I think that'd be a really fitting spot. It'll be right there, you know, on the corridor, so.
I'm gonna give it to Corinne.
Let's sell me plan the DPA project.
Corinne, I saw your hand up next. You're on mute.
Thank you. My village park committee had conversation on Thursday, the little empty lot on 36th and Troy Street, and we had talked about putting together a memorial bench or some sort of memorial for Moses there as well. But I'll get on board with the transportation project that Stefan brought up. Because I think that would bring a heck of a lot to the community, and I think Moses would be thrilled to have his name on that. So I'll back that project. But there might be a side bench in Village Park as well. So we might just have Moses's name scattered throughout the community, which you know what, he would love. So
Yes. Beth?
Yeah, well, I have another plan or idea for a site. Moses and I used to just hang out and talk in front of the Art Center. And he used to look over at the tree, like say you're at the corner of 31st and Capitol Highway. There's a little slope up the hill there. And then there's some kind of a rock or something there that has a tribute on it. I'm not exactly sure what it is because I don't see it. But he used to point to that all the time and say, I would really like to have a tribute there to the military. But it would be really nice to have a tribute right to that spot that he used to point at and have something to him.
Okay, I am jotting down all of these location notes. Thank you.
So it's just, yeah, right at the corner of 31st and Capitol Highway, but on the lawn at the Art Center. So that would have to go through the Parks Department somehow.
I'm sure we can think of something. These are all great ideas. Feel like the bench is very popular. So I think for the next steps, we can maybe look into seeing what that might entail and come back at the next meeting or so and have our proposal for that. But thank you all for sharing. Really appreciate it. And thank you all for sticking around for my first meeting. Good job. Thank you. Okay. Yep. I'm just gonna announce when the next meeting is on Tuesday, June 10th. I hope to see you all there and I will take a motion to adjourn.
I just want to say a quick thank you to Moses out loud.
Yes. Thank you.
Before we say goodbye and before we adjourn, thank you to Moses.
Thank you, Moses.
Thank you, Moses.
Thank
Oh,
you.
dear.
Thank you, Moses.
Thank you, Moses.
Bye for now, Moses.
Bye for now. And I'll second the adjourn. Thanks, Diane, for leading us.
Thank you, Corinne. All right. All right, that concludes the meeting at 8:43 p.m. Bye, everyone.